Welcome to the Birding for Joy podcast, a show about discovering and exploring all the ways birding and wild birds bring joy into our lives. I'm Candi Lynn Fite, your gracious host and joyful birder. If you're curious about learning more about birding for joy, grab your favorite beverage, settle on your perch, and let's get into today's episode. Hello, birdiful friends. If you've listened to Birding for Joy before, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, I am so happy you're here. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and if you've been birding for any amount of time, I am sure that you have discovered how beneficial watching and or listening to birds can help improve our mental well-being. If you're new to birding or considering adding birding to your lifestyle, I believe that you'll understand and agree with the things I'll talk about today once you've experienced it. Not only can birding help boost your mood, but scientific studies show watching and or listening to birds can also help reduce stress and anxiety, depression, lower high blood pressure, and bring us joy. Not just fleeting moments of happiness, but true lasting joy that can improve our daily lives. If you allow me to get personal here, I want to share how birding has been a game changer for me and my own mental health. If discussing anxiety, panic attacks, and or depression are triggers for you, you might want to fast forward to the 5-minute timestamp. In many situations, I normally don't share my experiences regarding mental health unless someone specifically asks me about them. I realize hearing about people in pain and or suffering makes others uncomfortable. I get it, but I also know that not talking about mental health issues is part of the problem with the negative ways society deals with what is believed to be the mental health crisis that we are enduring right now. Mental health is health, so we should treat the conditions like any other health issue or illness. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness and the National Institute of Mental Health, in 2021, there were an estimated 57.8 million adults aged 18 or older in the United States with any mental illness. This number represented 22.8% of all U.S. adults. Basically, that is 1 out of every 5. And an estimated 49.5% of adolescents aged 13 to 18 had any mental illness. One of the ways that we can remove the stigma of mental health is breaking down the barriers and talking about it. Yes, out in the open, in all of its uncomfortableness, in feeling all the feels. Back in 2013, my mother, who suffered terribly with mental illness, passed tragically, which sent me on a downward spiral. 2 years later, after climbing out of a dark place, another ugly event knocked me right back down. The anxiety and panic attacks were the worst. All I wanted to do was run away, disappear. Several years of therapy helped tremendously. And until last year, I'd reached a satisfactory plateau in life, one where I felt okay most days. Then enter birds and my daily walks observing them in their natural habitats. I immediately felt the healing aspects of birding, the uplift in my mood. I began to notice the joy prevailing over sorrow, and hope replacing worry and despair. The more I watched and listened, the better I felt. For me, birding wasn't a medicated Band-Aid that only masked my mental health symptoms. Although birding was like applying a soothing balm to the slow burn of misery I experienced. Not only did birds change my perspective on life in general, but they also taught me about the power of courage and resilience. Wild birds are the perfect role models. They take what we humans, life, and nature throw at them. Sure, individuals suffer and perish, but as a whole, birds of almost all species adapt and overcome. They keep flying because no matter what, they have to keep flapping their wings to survive. And amazingly, they sing while doing it. I'm not claiming that birds should replace the mental health strategies that someone already has in place. I'm merely suggesting that adding birds and birding into their routine can significantly improve their mental well being. And I am speaking from experience. Let's circle back to where I left off before I shared my personal story. There is real scientific evidence that birds and birding can have a positive impact on our mental well-being. A quick search online will provide you access to many articles and research studies done on the very subject. I will drop a few links in the show notes to get you started. You might be wondering how the simple act of watching and listening to wild birds can help improve our mental well-being. The most profound answer is when we focus our attention on birds and birdsong, our brains shift into somewhat of a lower gear, which aids in reducing mental fatigue and lowers blood pressure and stress-induced hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. This in turn rejuvenates our cognitive functions, allowing us to clear out the clutter in our brains. Birding helps us focus on the present moment instead of ruminating on the past or worrying about the future. When we birdwatch or listen to birdsong, our concentration increases, and our ability to pay attention to details is heightened. Birding brings us a sense of wonder, curiosity, and awe. These three things promote happiness and joy. Who wouldn't want to experience such profound positive benefits? Of course, all of us are different, and we all have different needs. As an example, on days when I'm feeling stressed or I have a lot on my mind, my ADHD can go into overdrive. On these days, watching all the birds around me and then trying to pinpoint the locations of particular birds in my binoculars can be quite overwhelming. When I feel my anxiety heightening, I put the binoculars down, I close my eyes and just tune in to the birdsong around me. As calmness settles over me, I feel the tension and stress fading. The longer I allow myself to be still and immerse myself in the experience, the better I feel. I'm not pushing a load of hokum on y'all. I wish everyone would try birding to help improve their mental health. Yes, this is me shouting from the treetops. If you want to feel better, go out and be with the birds. Engage all of your senses and just let your mind wander. If you can't get outdoors, open a window. And if that presents an issue, remember, you can always ask for help from a friend or neighbor. Fix them a cup of tea or coffee and then invite them to sit with you and enjoy the birds. The best things are birds are nearly everywhere. And unless you choose to pay a park fee, birding is essentially free. To experience the multitude of benefits that birds can offer, you don't need to be an expert. You don't have to be able to identify them. Trust me, the birds do not care if you know them by species or birdsong. You don't need to be in a birding hotspot or designated birding area. Some of my most rewarding birding experiences have been what are called sit-in spots, where I either park myself in a lawn chair or on a blanket and just wait to see what birds show up. Birding doesn't require fancy equipment. Yes, binoculars help you see them up close, but to experience the mindful health benefits, you don't need them. It's okay if you don't own a field guide or bird identification book. You also don't have to attend an organized bird outing. All you need is yourself and then a way to access the outdoors. Even if you're only able to venture out on your porch or sit near an open window, by witnessing the delightful behaviors and hearing the joyful songs of birds, you will be able to soak in the mental health benefits. Speaking of joy, have I told you lately how much joy birds have brought into my life? So much so that I started this podcast 1 year ago next month, all about the joy I experience from birds and birding. And I am here to share it with you. As the poet Mary Oliver so eloquently said, pay attention, be astonished, and then tell about it. Well, there you have it, my friends. I have paid attention to the benefits the birds have had on my mental well-being. I have been and will remain astonished by them and the positive impacts they have on my life. And I will continue to tell you about it. Don't forget, June will be the first podversary for the podcast and the start of season 3. I'm switching up the format to include guest interviews. This means birders, other bird podcasters, bird photographers, bird artists, bird groups or organizations, authors, or anyone else out there that wants to share their birding story. If you're interested in being on the show, reach out. You can DM me on Instagram at Birding for Joy. Well, this wraps up today's episode. I hope you all have a birdie-ful week. If you are enjoying the Birding for Joy podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the show. Subscribing and tuning in to the episodes lets the algorithm on each platform know the podcast is providing you worthwhile content. It also helps ensure the success of the show. Remember, the absolute best way to support your favorite podcast is by word of mouth. So make sure to share Birding for Joy with others who might enjoy listening. That way we continue to build a joyful birding community. As always, thank you for tuning in and stay chirpy, my friends.